Welcome to the Tricord Advisors podcast, where we answer life's hard questions to help you make smart decisions with your money. I'm Jeremiah Lee, and this is Randy Barkley. We're both certified financial planners. I'm also a California licensed attorney.
So let's continue the conversation, Jeremiah, on healthcare. And I am more concerned about when we sit down and talk with a client, there's really nobody that they've named, either informally or formally, to step in to make decisions for them.
Yeah.
In the event that they're not able to make decisions for themselves.
Yep.
And it could be illness, but it also could be an accident that occurs. And all of a sudden they're in a situation where there's nobody that's providing that healthcare directive for that particular individual.
And generally then the hospital look for a next of kin,
right?
Someone to make a choice. And that could be I'm not saying estranged brother, but someone who you've not connected with, or you wouldn't want to be making that choice for you. And this actually dovetails really nicely into kind of the next worry we had is estate planning. And when I say estate planning, we talk about wills and trusts, but just like you said, advanced healthcare directives, all those times. And this is when we hear people come in, and I think it's interesting is what people worry about. I think people have the right amount of concern about their estate planning when they come in, but often they have not enough action behind it. I'm amazed at how many folks we have that are in their 50s and 60s and just don't have an estate plan.
Right.
Or that they did one 20 years ago and it's really not relevant to their current.
Well, everything's changed. Their children have grown. They've listed other people as their successor trustees or executors or executrixes. There's changes have occurred over 20 years, and they haven't made any changes to their planning.
Their plan, yeah. And I think it's almost like when I speak with people about this, it's almost like they have this should mentality. I should do this. I need to do this, but I don't know that they have enough teeth to really be worried about it. Whereas they might be worried about like you said, inflation or things we talked about in the first section. But for estate planning, man, people who've gone through it and had to administer their parents' estate and they did not have appropriate estate planning in place, they realize this can be a nightmare for the next generation. This can be difficult. And on one side, people say, well, I'm dead, doesn't matter. Well, one, it does. It's your assets and it's your family. But the other piece is there's a lot of the estate planning that applies while you're alive. And the piece that you just mentioned is who's going to make a medical choice for you. And man, to have a car accident and then have your eyes open and realize that someone that you don't overly trust in your family is the person giving instructions to doctors.
Right.
Gosh, that can't be a fun moment. So part of estate planning is advanced health care directive. You name the person you want making medical choices. Right. Another part is a power of attorney that says, I want this person in my life to make financial choices for me. But those are both while you're living. And then if you're to pass away, that's when your will and your trust kind of can kick in and really have great value to you. And the biggest piece I see with families is just taking out the guesswork. Taking out the, am I going to get this? Are they going to get this? When people have a well-drafted trust, primarily in California, if they have real estate or just other assets, the trust is the primary vehicle we use for this. If it's well-drafted, it makes it very clear, this is who gets what, this is how it's all going to happen. And it makes the trustee's job, whoever's kind of stepping into your shoes, pretty easy. And they got marching orders, they got power, and they kind of get to work in administering this trust. And kids can feel good or bad about what they're getting, but the question of the ambiguity is taken out of it. Yeah, and that's a really, really nice place to be in when someone's trying to administer a trust. So for estate planning, I would say people need to have it on their bucket list less and actually have it on the forefront and get it done faster.
Yeah, I mean, we recently have a client who we've been working with for a long time. I mean, over 10 years, and we've been trying to get them to do their estate planning, and we just found out that the wife passed away suddenly. And I'm kind of crestfallen by it all because we have tried to get them to do estate planning, and we've talked about it. And there was even a point in time where the husband was in the hospital and he requested that we come down and help him witness a will that was kind of hurriedly drafted. But even after that, if he recovered, we said, okay, we need to do some serious conversation about this and get a plan in place. And I think what is disappointing is the fact that we were almost to the finish line, not realizing that the wife was that ill, and then she passed away, and it's really sad.
It is hard. And to have people with that mindset to say, it's important, I want to get to it, but I'll get to it later. Now, it's because it's a conversation about death, considering their own mortality, or if it's just not a convenient thing to get through, or they have a lot of confusion. What do they want to happen?
Right.
But getting that stuff in place and finalized acts as a great safety net. So estate planning, I think people should worry worry less, but just get it done so you don't have to worry about it anymore. The next one I'd say we get a lot of worries about is taxes.
Taxes.
People worry, that they are going to be either decimated by taxes or pay too many taxes. And part of what we talk about is that taxes are a part of life, but you can be very strategic on how and when.
And I think the key thing for what we try to give clients advice on is how to use taxes, to leverage a better return on capital. For example, if you put money into an IRA or a 401k or some kind of tax deferred program, taxes is a big part of the total return because you're actually reducing your taxable income by your contribution. There's a lot of conversation about Roth. And of course, people say, should I put money into a Roth account versus an IRA account, traditional IRA account? And the answer is it all depends.
Yeah.
Again, we want to utilize taxes to the benefit of the contribution because in essence, the government becomes your partner when you're making those contributions.
Yeah. And there's a number of things that I find for taxes that people worry about. And what you really need to do is have a real conversation with someone who knows about taxes, whether it's an advisor, whether it's an accountant, someone. So for example, when people have real estate and they're looking to transition it to the next generation, there's what I would even go as far as say some right ways and some wrong ways to do it based on the tax implications. There are some major tax benefits to doing it in an appropriate manner. Same with people will talk about 1031 exchanges. It's an IRS tax code, 1031 of how you transition from one rental to another rental. And man, there's some great tax benefits there. And someone a while ago, it was saying the only people you talk about the credit cards that you get benefits from. And it says basically the only people who are being impacted by those are the people who are not using points credit cards, because everyone, every credit card has this much cash back, this much points. The only people who are not benefiting are those who are not using credit cards for points at all. They're experiencing higher prices without any sort of benefit. And I would say same for taxes. Like the only people who are really impacted here are people who are doing no tax planning. They're just walking through their life and making choices with their assets and without consulting a CPA or an advisor. And they're probably overpaying and they don't even realize it.
Right.
But the folks who, I think they can worry less about the fine details of how much they have to pay, but just taking some of those big buckets of making some really good choices on deferring income into retirement, deferring some of those taxes, transitioning real estate from one generation to the next efficiently. Like there's some major tax savings that people can take hold of with just a little bit of planning.
Right. Again, how your IRA is set up and the beneficiary designations, again, to your spouse, it becomes their IRA account typically. To your children and or other beneficiaries, you have to do some planning. And we've ran across some situations where just beneficiary designations can have a horrible outcome if it's not done right. Yeah. And there's a lot of ways that you can title or you can state the beneficial designation. And this is probably one of the key things that I've heard from clients and prospective clients that is a misstatement. They'll say, I did my trust. I did my estate plan. Therefore, my IRA, my 401k is in the trust. And we have to pause. We have to stop and say, no, it's not. It gets distributed based upon beneficiary designations, and you better review those periodically, because it can turn into an absolute mess for the beneficiaries.
That's holistic. I mean, this kind of ties back to the estate plan we just talked about, like taxes and estate planning. It's a holistic view that you need. Right. And I'd say that, what piece can you control? I would say, don't worry as much, but get some help.
Right.
The last one we'll talk about a little bit and just shortly is Social Security. We get worries about Social Security, I'd say consistently. Is it still going to be here? Is it going to be different? And I think that the big takeaway at the time we have left is to say Social Security in some form will be there in the future. We anticipate. We also anticipate it's going to be different. And so what you can do as an individual is make sure that you're not fully dependent on Social Security as it exists today.
Right. I think there'll be changes because it's just the matter of demographics. People are getting older. There's less people that are contributing to Social Security. So the government will make changes accordingly, right?
Yep. And you have to respond and not worry. If you missed any part of this episode, you can go to our website, retirementunlimited.com, where you can find us on YouTube.
Until next week, folks. May you grow in wisdom and knowledge. Thank you for listening.